I think what people need to realize is that every single person has their own implicit bias based on their own backgrounds, life experiences, history, things like that, culture. And I think that everyone needs to challenge that implicit bias. You need to lead with a spirit of like empathy, to put yourselves in someone else's situation to know that to get a better understanding of what they are going through.
And I kind of feel like implicit bias is a new term that some people came up with in some college campus somewhere, because we're all human beings and we're all born into wherever we're born. We have experiences, and that creates this thing that fuels the way we interact and think. And that apparently someone labeled as our implicit bias. I don't think some people have it and some people don't have it. I think it's the nature of being a human being.
Right.
And then as you're more self-aware and you reflect and realize you're humble, I don't know.
Is I have just as much bias as you, and not just against white people, but against Black people. Because you understand, just like you're being programmed, so am I.
Yeah.
And so I had to re-educate myself so I could relearn Black excellence, because I was programmed that I was inferior as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to start like, okay, wait a minute. No, I am equal. I am good enough. And all of these things, because that is how things are portrayed, or a sense of beauty is portrayed with the, skinny white woman or whatever. And so I had to start educating myself.
We all have to get to a point where we never have to be apologetic about who we are. Do I love being Black? Yes, I do. That's just how it is. I'm not going to necessarily apologize about the conversation around the dinner tables that I had when I was growing up, because I grew up in a generational home, So, I mean, this implicit, whatever it is, just be real about who and what you are.
I've come to not blame people for their implicit bias, because oftentimes they have no choice in what they've experienced, much like Norma. Like she grew up where she grew up. Kalinda grew up where she grew up. Hatley grew up where you grew up. And you can't be blamed because you don't have the experiences that would help you make informed decisions about someone. You have to rely on outside sources. And right now, our outside sources is the media. And they don't paint us a very good light, right? So when the absence of real life experience, you look for other things to fill that gap. And I've just come to use that privilege to help them understand and to create conflict between what they thought they knew and then what I am. And that is completely my goal in all of these interactions. I want them to say, man, I thought this Black guy was going to be like this. I thought the guy with the earring was going to be like this. I thought the guy who may use slang every now and then, who may talk colloquially, may actually be this because that's what I've heard. That was my implicit bias. But look, here's someone who's not like that. I am conflicted now. I have to trust who I see in front of me versus what I've been told. And for me, that is the best gift I have. And I try to live that each and every day, is to create conflict between what they thought they knew and who I am.
It is remarkable to me how many white people candidly don't personally know any people of color on a one-to-one personal basis. And honestly, to break down misconceptions and biases and the like, I think personally that it really starts getting to know somebody one-on-one, getting to know about them personally, let them share what it's like to be them, and then things kind of expand on from them. My opinion.
I agree.
I think about the fact of the people that live in areas where there's no diversity. And I know, Kalinda, you and we grew up in an area where there's no diversity. And so in order to have people understand, how are people in communities that are white going to understand or even start the conversation with people, especially if they hear from their parents or their grandparents and it's a way of life and that kind of, like, how do we move it away from, being in an urban area, diversity. I'm thankful that my kids go to a school where there's lots of diversity. And so how do we move that? And I know implicit bias then is coming from that as well.
Right.
All of it's about education. So if you, probably the best education is the personal experience that you have. So the fact that you move from a white place to a black place, and now you see people around you, and you realize that, you know, there are good black people, there are bad black people, there are good white people, there are bad white people. I think there's a lot to be said and for having that experience as from the standpoint of ability to change hearts. It's really hard though if you don't have that opportunity, because then you got to do the work yourself. You got to actually believe what you're reading, but the motivation may or may not be there.
Is when we talk about implicit bias, right? We're talking about like things that we're not present to, often linked to like deeply held beliefs, right? That we're shaped by ourselves and by all the forces outside of us. And so when you're asking people to sort of to evaluate like the bottom blocks of the Jenga tower to test like delicate parts of like who they are, it takes a lot of trust, and it takes relationship, right? And it's not something you can do alone. And this conversation is not nearly diverse yet, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think what's missing is on some level we've got to risk more. On some level we've got to get more skin in this game.
And so that matters, because again, just change one more person's point of view. That literally, that's one more person at least, which that could be the difference. Let me tell you, if you'd educate somebody on a certain point of view, do you know that that could be the difference in unconscious bias and a black person being hired?
Yeah, sure.
That could be the difference in me getting a job, because that person was like, Ann told me that in hiring practice on occasion, people actually judge people because of their name or because of that. And I almost did that because I saw Aisha on here, but I'm going to give Aisha a fair chance this time. I mean, you know, because they just weren't conscious. It's conscious bias.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I think that we are taught, no, I don't think anybody's born with racist acts or thoughts. Nobody's born that way. They learn it through their family or friends outside of the household, or what they see, or through media. They learn that. And so we have to get to the point to where we can come together, acknowledge it. It makes the conversation very awkward sometimes, but I've gotten to the point after what I just saw happen. I'm past it. I'm to the point where I'm comfortable being uncomfortable, because we gotta have the talks. We got to get over it.